The human body is an amazing machine, but from an engineer's perspective, it's an absolute design disaster. Why do our air passages and food passages have to share the exact same pathway? From an engineering standpoint, allowing the two most vital fluid systems to cross paths is a critically serious error, because every single time you swallow food, you are risking choking yourself to death. Food must cross the windpipe's opening to descend into the stomach, while air must flow in the opposite direction, down to the lungs. This isn't a perfect design, but rather the most dangerous makeshift solution. Did nature truly create us to risk death every single time we eat? The answer is, nature didn't design us from scratch, but is an engineer who loves to repurpose existing parts. If we are to find those responsible for this monumental engineering flaw, we must look back at our ancestors hundreds of millions of years ago. If a god or an engineer had designed us from the beginning, these two tubes should have been completely separate for maximum safety. But that is not the case. The trace of this error was not intentional, but an evolutionary legacy that we cannot deny. Going back to the era when our ancestors were fish, their respiratory and digestive systems were one. Water entered their mouths, passed through gills for oxygen, and food went to their stomachs. It was a perfectly straight line, but when oxygen in the water decreased, some fish had to gulp air from the surface. Nature then adapted the air sacs, once used for buoyancy, that grew from the digestive tract into the first primitive lungs. This fact can be proven within the mother's womb. Human embryos do not develop lungs separately from the stomach, but our lungs actually branch out from the front part of the digestive tube. When our ancestors moved onto land, the nostrils, once used for smelling underwater, were adapted to breathe air, but they ended up at the very top of the head, while the lungs were located much lower down. The result is utter chaos. The airway from our nose has to cross the food pipe from our mouth to reach the lungs, creating an intersection no one would ever want. Evolution isn't an engineer who can just tear down and redesign from scratch. Instead, evolution is a repairman who must only add to the existing structure, no matter how foolish it may be. So we must endure this flawed legacy, but nature doesn't let us die so easily. Therefore, the immediate engineering problem-solving began. When the structure cannot be dismantled, nature created an engineering patch. This is the epiglottis, a small cartilaginous flap that functions like a folding door. Each time that we swallow, our throat muscles pull the larynx up to meet this protective flap, briefly blocking off the windpipe for a split second, allowing food to smoothly slide down the esophagus. It's a rather complex mechanism, all just to fix a fundamental inherent structural flaw. And if this gate should ever fail to function correctly, nature has provided an emergency backup system, the cough, a powerful violent mechanism that compresses air within the lungs to forcefully expel any food particles before we choke to death. The presence of the windpipe here led to the development of vocal cords at this very intersection. This structural flaw surprisingly became the very origin of human language and communication. The profound philosophy hidden within our throat is that imperfection is never truly the end. Sometimes the very errors that are constantly patched and mended ultimately give rise to the most intricate organisms. Our bodies are not sacred sculptures, carved flawlessly, but rather biological Frankensteins, piecing together parts from the past to survive in the present. Every single time you swallow food and don't choke, you should be grateful to evolution, the engineer who never had a perfect blueprint, but never gave up finding solutions to ensure our continued survival.